in Yeovilton for the 2017 Yeovilton International Air Day. Once again, we have a splendid afternoon of aerial action for you. Everything from the light but very potent aerobatic aeroplane with which we are going to be getting proceedings underway through to some of the world's most modern and potent combat jets from the air forces and air arms of several countries. And there he is with smoke on. He calls it the Muscle Pits. He is Rich Goodwin, and he starts the flying program at the 2017 RNAS Yeovilton Air Day in spectacular fashion, straight onto the knife edge. He has special dispensation to do this. All the way down to the end of the crowd line, a very good opportunity there to see the colour scheme on this Pitts S2S with the logo, the legend of his main new sponsor, Anana, atop the aircraft's wings before he goes into the main body of his display. Rich Goodwin, a former Royal Air Force pilot, his father Ken Goodwin, great aviation history to his name in the RAF, former RAF fast jet rolling inverted, showing us the top side of the pits once again as he passes by, and then pushing into a very uncomfortable outside turn, followed by some snap rolls. Rich himself flew the Tornado GR1 strike aircraft during his Royal Air Force service. He flew 21 missions during the 1991 Gulf War, and he's now an airline captain, as well as spending an increasing amount of time flying this much modified Pitts. He joined the British Aerobatic Association, got into flying competition aerobatics that way, was very successful in that arena. And he's now taken up display flying with great aplomb. And here, an inverted flat turn. A couple more snap rolls as he goes away from us. Back down on the 45-degree line, in towards us, back onto the display line. Rich pulling vertical into hesitation, 4-point roll, and a double hammerhead stall maneuver. And another negative G push. Up back into the vertical. And now here he is in front of us, making as much like a Harrier as we're going to see from a fixed-wing aeroplane in the display today, hanging it on the propeller, nose down once more, smoke back on. High-performance aerobatic aeroplane such as this. Rich can power to a top speed of 200 miles an hour. Rich has generally made modifications to the design to enhance the aircraft's agility. It's got new landing gear assembly made from titanium, redesigned engine cowling, new fuel injection system, and of course this smoke system. Another inverted flat turn here. Two more snap rolls on the way out. It's the one parallel with the main runway in front of us. The B-axis is the one at right angles onto that. Now, here comes Rich Goodwin, rolling in, building up speed in front of us, ready to pull up towards our right. And this is what Rich calls the Tower of Power. He was snap rolling on his way up, on his way down, torque rolling back through his own smoke. There's the recovery. And into another high-speed dive before pulling up for another series of snap rolls and turning back in towards us. Rich will now be pulling vertical into some positive G snap rolls. There he goes. Flicking to the left to recover back onto the main display axis. Another pull to the vertical now. Back down with snaps on his way down. Really showing us the full envelope of this machine, and there's more to come because Rich is currently in the throes of developing and building a jet-powered pit, which he hopes he may be able to get onto the display circuit for next year. Briefly onto the knife edge before another outside turn. Yet more snap rolls. Because Rich is coming towards the end of this very, very high. And here he comes back past us once again on the knife edge. Rich Goodwin with his Pitts S2S, his muscle biplane. He'll definitely appreciate your appreciation as he goes by. Thank you very much indeed. What a performance. An absolutely superb display coming in to land back on Rich Goodwin with his muscle biplane. Westland's earlier helicopter products has its roots in an American design, namely the Sikorsky S-55. It was conceived to replace the Westland Dragonfly, which had been built as the Sikorsky S-51 originally, with both the Royal Air Force and the Fleet Air Arm, because in the early post-war years, helicopters really began to prove their utility. About 10 soldiers, but when operating in hot and high regions, high altitudes, hot climates, it was found somewhat lacking, at least in its early versions, it must be said. And of course, the British forces of that era, radial piston engine, it was followed by the HAR-2 for the Royal Air Force with the same power plant, began coming into service with number 22 Squadron at Thorney Island in February 1955. They were painted yellow, they were equipped with both a winch and a scoop net, and search and rescue detachments were set up around the UK, engaged in both service and civilian search and rescue. And here we see a demonstration of the Whirlwind's search and rescue role. As it performs a demonstration using the winch. A variety of different versions were produced, with efforts being made to increase engine power output. And this one has turboshaft as opposed to radial piston power from its Bristol Siddeley, or later Rolls-Royce Gnome, turboshaft engine of about 1,050 shaft horsepower, which gives the Whirlwind a cruising speed in the region of 104, 105 miles an hour. So, coming past us slowly with the winch simulation ongoing. A Whirlwind HAR-10, the first of which flew in the spring of 1961. The Gnome engine gave the Whirlwind much greater utility than it had previously enjoyed. The engine is mounted in the helicopter's nose. As you can see, the cockpit is set very high above it. They were used for troop transport, for anti-submarine warfare work in some of the Royal Navy's earlier efforts in that role with helicopters, and here as search and rescue platforms. There were also Whirlwinds used by the Queen's Flight for royal travel purposes. In the search and rescue role with the RAF, number 22 Squadron, the Westland Wessex. Number 202 Squadron was the last search and rescue operator of the type. They began to bring the Westland-built Sea King, another former Sikorsky product, as the F-61, into service from 1978, the very last RAF Whirlwinds on Anglesey. This one was originally built as an HAR-2 model, served with number 22 Squadron at St Morgan in Cornwall. It was modified a few years later to Mark 10 standard. scary expression on its nose as we see it from the front. This machine served with number 202 Squadron, then went through several of the other bases where 202 had detachments, Lucas, Coltishall and Chivener, and its last service was with the Search and Rescue. It wasn't retired by the RAF, this Whirlwind, until 1981 when it became an instructional airframe with the Search and Rescue Engineering Wing at Finningley, now Doncaster Sheffield Airport. A faster pass with a wave from the crewman in the door. To him, a wonderfully distinctive machine, and nice to see historic helicopters playing. But in contrast, on the roll now from the Belgian Air component, the General Dynamics F-16A MLU Fighting Falcon. And in the third of his 3 seasons as their F-16 display pilot is Commandant Aviator Tom de Mortel, known as Gizmo. Once again, the aircraft retaining a very attractive special colour scheme. There's the top side being shown on the count 5, 620 knots. Belgium was one of the European participating air forces, along with Denmark, the Netherlands and Norway, which ordered F-16s in June of 1975, 348 aircraft in total across those 4 nations. Belgian F-16s, along with those of the other European air forces operating the A and B models, have been. And it's one of the displays with flares during several of the vertical manoeuvres. And once again, the pace slowing as the aircraft is set up for the slow speed pass. This will be at about 130 knots. Afterburner being engaged, the aircraft goes into a minimum radius, turn as tight as possible in front of us. Resuming the slow speed pass down towards the right-hand end of the display line. Re-engaged. Three-quarter roll. And turning back in onto the display line, where the aircraft will be rolling inverted for its inverted pass. Seen a great deal of service in Afghanistan and in the Baltic air policing mission, which is very important for NATO today, providing air defence to Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania, the three Baltic states that don't possess their own air defence fighters. Flare firing of this display. And with that final aileron roll, the undercarriage is brought down. That unit's special anniversary markings, and we'll see it depart later on today with both this aircraft and the display spare. But for now, a wonderful, very professional demonstration by Commandant Aviateur Tom de Mortel of the Belgian Air Component on the General Dynamics, now Lockheed Martin F-16A MLU Fighting Falcon. As you can see, it's a very small and pugnacious looking aeroplane. Just over 33 feet long, as against, this is a two-seat trainer variant of an aircraft type that was one of the earliest of the really effective combat jets to see service in the early post-war years. A design that made much use of captured wartime German technology, the Germans having, of course, come up with some extremely advanced jet designs that never saw the operational light of day. And indeed, in the case of the Messerschmitt Me 262, one that very much did, along with the Arado AR-234 and the de Havilland Vampire, having been straight-winged in configuration. And we'll see the sweat. The Mikoyan Gurevich MiG-15 UTI. Represented here by a Polish license-built version, the WSK Mielec SB Lim 2. I said was 35 degrees of wing sweepback. It was given heavy cannon armament for that bomber-destroyer role. It was the second Mikoyan Gurevich jet after the straight-winged MiG-9, which had flown the previous year. But the MiG-15 represented a very serious advance. It first took to the air not long after the American jet that was to become its great adversary, the North American F-86 Sabre. And from the outset, the MiG-15 was able to exceed 1,000 kilometers per hour. Nearly 650 miles an hour at an altitude of around 9,800 feet. The type came into service in 1949, and the following year saw the much improved MiG-15 BIS variant. The Civil War, the Chinese communists were receiving Soviet assistance in their fight against the Chinese nationalist forces. Of the Chinese nationalist side, but its most famous combat successes occurred between 1950 and 53 during the Korean War, flying for the North Korean side, but it wasn't just North Koreans that piloted them, there were Soviet and Chinese pilots as well. And this little aeroplane proved a very tough opponent. An extremely effective tactic of the communist-flown MiG-15s was to wait at high altitude in large groups and then split to pounce on the aircraft being operated in Korea by the United Nations forces. The first combat encounter with the MiG-15 was on the 1st of November 1950 during the Korean War. That was against F-51 Mustangs of the US Air Force, and we're going to be seeing a Mustang next up on the program. A week later came the first official jet versus jet kill, when a Lockheed F-80 Shooting Star of the US Air Force downed a MiG-15. Though there has been some doubt cast as to that claim with research in recent years, it might have taken place a few days later. At lower altitudes, though, the F-86 had the edge over the MiG. And of course, a lot of the American pilots flying them were combat experienced from the Second World War. And these advantages were multiplied when later model F-86s became available in Korea. As far as this aircraft's part in the history of the Fleet Air Arm of the Royal Navy is the reason why there's another MiG-15 on this airfield at the moment in the Fleet Air Arm Museum. That's another license-built Polish example, because it was on the 8th of August 1952 that the only air-to-air kill of the Korean War by a British pilot was scored, and that was by a Sea Fury FB-11 of the Fleet Air Arm. Credit officially being given in that instance to Lieutenant Peter Carmichael. Through the rest of the Cold War, MiG-15s had occasional confrontations with Western aircraft around the fringes of Soviet and other communist territory. There was the shoot down of a Douglas DC-3 of the Swedish Air Force conducting an electronic intelligence mission over the Baltic, and indeed of the Catalina amphibious flying boat that was sent to try and look for and, as it turned out unsuccessfully, rescue its crew. And there it is, being brought into land beautifully by the founder and boss of the Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron, Kenneth Åkvisla, and the colour scheme he chose for the MiG-15 there is that P-51D Mustang. most effective Allied fighters of the Second World War. But an aircraft that really has a great deal to owe to the United Kingdom, both in terms of its initial conception, because it was intended to meet a British requirement, and indeed its refinement into such an outstanding fighting machine. Material for the British Armed Forces from American manufacturers. Times of fighters. British manufacturers were of course doing the best they could, but there was seen a need to procure fighters from US manufacturers. It entered service powered by the Allison V17-10 engine, which, although a very good power plant, as used in the P-40 and other famous World War II American aircraft, lacked the sort of high altitude these Army cooperation and ground attack aircraft, but a more powerful engine was required, and it came about as a result of the commanding officer of the RAF's Air Fighting Development Unit, then stationed at RAF Duxford in Cambridgeshire. He was talking to the Rolls-Royce Chief Test Pilot Ronald Harker. In discussion between the pair of them, there came up the idea of fitting the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, divert Merlins from much needed production for aircraft like the Spitfire and the Lancaster and the Mosquito. In licensed manufacturing by the American automobile manufacturer Packard. And indeed, it's the Packard Merlin engine that powers this bubble canopied P-51D model, built by North American Aviation at Inglewood, California, in late 1944. By that time, the P-51 had well and truly established itself as one of the most effective bomber escort fighters of World War II. Stationed in the UK with the 8th and 9th Air Forces of the then US Army Air Force. Namely that with the so-called red tails, and you can see that element on this aircraft's colour scheme, first having reappeared as such around this time last year, back on the display circuit. Missions across Germany, Austria and Czechoslovakia in the closing weeks of World War II. Peter adopting a curving final approach to land. That has a very good practical purpose because visibility over the nose in these heavy tail dragger fighters is none too good, so that enables one to keep the runway in sight for as long as possible. And there he is, Peter Typhoon, with the Hangar 11 Collection's North American P-51D Mustang. Peter will be staying. As with any of the best aircraft designs, it took a little while to refine the Harvard, or T-6 Texan as it was known to the US Army Air Corps and later Army Air Force and US Air Force, into its final form. The early ones had fixed undercarriage rather than the retractable gear. And that was bought by the Royal Air Force and the Royal Canadian Air Force as the Harvard II, and it became a mainstay of the Commonwealth Air Training Plan in Canada. As Second World War hostilities developed, it was deemed far more desirable to train pilots away from areas where enemy activity was likely. Canada was seen as being a suitably safe bet, but there were some problems associated with that because at the time the first Harvards were being supplied to the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan, the United States was of course still neutral. It hadn't entered World War II yet. Circumvent that though by having Canadian nationals physically haul them across the land border. The aircraft then took off and were flown to their bases. By the end of 1940, more than 800 Harvards had been delivered to bases around the British Empire. And the President of North American Aviation, Dutch Kindleberger, was congratulated by telegram by Lord Beaverbrook, the head of the British Ministry of Aircraft Production, for the company's efforts. There were service flying training schools equipped with Harvard. In Algeria, and the US Air Force employed them in the Korean War as forward air control aircraft. This one, which comes to us from Kennett Aviation, was built by North American Aviation in 1942, and it's flown in the US Army Air Force olive drab scheme. This aircraft has been used a lot over the years as a tail dragger trainer for warbird pilots, not least those of the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight and Royal Navy Historic Flight. this year that the last Harvard on the British military register was struck off charge and sold because Kinetic, they had three, collectively known as the Yellow Perils. One of them was lost, the second was sold during the 1990s, and the third stayed on until it was sold and is now with the Aircraft Restoration Company.
And we've got the Royal Navy presentation team. We'll be talking through what the Navy's up to today and in the future, and the Military Wives Choir will be performing there as well. Over there we've got the Maritime Aviation Capability Exhibition, which is future technology that's all coming into service, with all the new aircraft, the new missile systems, and all the sensor arrays in there, so do go and have a look over that as well. All interesting stuff over the static park. In the centre you've got more static displays of all the traders and the fun fair. And over to the left, as you look at the display line, we've got the big C-17 there, open for everyone to go and have a good wander around. And behind then you might have noticed a few of the helicopters going in and out.
And we're waiting for them to do a woody run. That's an indicator that they drop out the back of the plane, which will give them a wind direction indicator so they can land safely. Which is Lieutenant Laura Wellesby from the AGC. So at the moment, around about 2,000, 3,000 feet, and we should be seeing a woody being dropped out the back of the aircraft. It's a yellow and red streamer. There it is. You will notice that they're all stacked up and they all come down in that order. You can see it, but just to the rear of where the red arrows are at the moment, there is a pink cross. That is where they're aiming to land. If they do manage to hit the pink cross, let's have a big round of applause, please. It's a big competition, and they've been told that if they do land on the pink flag, they can dance a jig. Okay, there's the first one out the door. That will be Major Sharky Ward. There he is. Second one out the door with a smoke, Sub-Lieutenant Johnny Danks. You can see him free falling down now, probably hitting about 126 mile an hour. Third one out the door, that'll be Midshipman Emma Reynolds. Fourth and fifth out the door, that'll be Marine David Reed and Second Lieutenant Tom Simpson. And the final one out the door is our guest jumper Laura. As you can see, the floors, they're all trying to keep away from each other and stack up on the way in. They will hold around above you. They will then eventually start moving towards the airfield, and they will do a almost 180-degree turn at two 90-degree angles, and then hopefully land. Hopefully not in that big plume of red smoke, which is trying to indicate where the smoke is going, but hey, that should be interesting. So first person down today is Major Sharky Ward. I've got to do a quick congratulations to his daughter, Casey Ward, who is 11 years old today. What a great dad he is. He's decided to bring his daughter to watch him skydive. So Sharky's on his way down now. That's the first guy. Sharky is a major at 40 jumps, and he's done 60 demos, and he's our team leader today. And he is, and this is a true fact, he is Sharky Ward, followed by Johnny Danks. Johnny Danks is Sub-Lieutenant, currently serving at 44-5 Commando as an education officer. He's got 600 jumps. Here he comes in now, Major Ward. Big round of applause if he hits the cross. Oh, he hit the cross. Outstanding, well done Sharky. Coming in very, very quickly. Third in will be Midshipman Anne Reynolds. She's currently learning to be a pilot and is on 727 Squadron. Johnny's down safe. Oh, just missed it. Well done, Emma, nice safe landing. Dave Reed. Dave is in the Royal Marine Reserves. Dave did join the Royal Marines in 2008, but left recently and has rejoined doing the reservists, hence why he can be on here at the moment. He's got 550 jumps, and this is his 12th demo today. And Dave has got the Norfolk Grumman flag, which is our sponsorship. Quite a heavy bit of kit. And this looks like it's going to be Second Lieutenant Tom Simpson's coming early. And wow, right up close to the crowd, can't get better than that. And here comes Marine David Reed. Well done, Dave. Nice thing. She's got 450 jumps at the moment, and this is her 6th demo with the Raiders. So she's quite a frequent jumper with us. Good to see all the team down. All they're doing now is just getting rid of their kit. They'll be getting rid of the smoke if they're wearing one. The smoke is extremely hot, so that'll be going into the can to make sure they're safe. Get their kit ready, put on their berry, whether that's green or blue. And here comes Laura now, all eyes on her, bless her. Here she comes, nice big round of applause for Laura as she comes in. Not an easy jump today with no wind. And safely on the ground, well done. So I'm just waiting now for Major Sharky Ward when everybody's ready to go. They're 20 metres, like 20 feet between them. And they're now going to do a crowd salute. So. It's good to see everybody down on the ground nice and safe. And here we go for the official bit. Over to you, Sharky. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 2017 Navy Raiders. If you could put your hands together, that would be very much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your day.
And thank you to Lieutenant Commander Tug Wilson and the Royal Navy Raiders for a very exciting jump there.
Army Parachute School, which is in Netherhaven. And it looks like now they're just turning in now to do their final run. And because of the wind conditions at the moment, which I've...
My grandfather flagged Sub-Lieutenant F.D.H. Bunny Bremner during the First World War 100 years ago. David had that aircraft at Lark Hill yesterday. Sweet's close the show, bringing the proceedings to a finish at about 25 past 4. Taking to the runway in preparation for their display, and it's my pleasure to hand over to Squadron Leader Mike Ling. Well, thank you very much, Ben. A very good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Squadron Leader Mike Ling, and I am Red 10. I'm the supervisor with the Royal Air Force aerobatic team, the Red Arrows. They're just taxiing out now in front of you, heading down to the threshold of runway 27, getting ready to take off from your left to right in just a couple of minutes' time. So we've just performed a formal start-up. You can see they've left my jet, the 10th jet there, the spare aircraft. They've been moving that by hand around the pan, ready for when the pilots finish the display and they taxi back in. So you can see our team of engineers, our circus engineers. I'll cover more of that shortly. Just sorting out that aircraft down on the pan towards the Rafale and F-16 aircraft. Taxiing out in the order 1 to 9. They'll soon go into single file and turn through 180 degrees to get ready for the takeoff. It's actually the first time we've been able to perform a display takeoff in front of a crowd. So far this season, all of our displays have been away from airfields, or airfields that have runways long enough for us to take off. So we've been working from other air bases and transiting to the show. So it's a treat today to actually perform the takeoff in front of the crowd here at Yeovilton. Getting ready to perform a display takeoff coming in from your left once they've turned around on the runway. You'll see reds 1, 2 and 3 at the front, reds 4 and 5 will be 750 feet behind them, and at the very back of the runway will be reds 6, 7, 8 and 9. Having finished last year's display season, then embarked on a huge tour across the Middle East and into the Asia Pacific, where for the first time the team performed in China. In fact, the first time a military fast jet from the UK had been in China. So we travelled 22,000 miles on a round trip, which was displaying and promoting British prosperity, British industry, and also the Royal Air Force and the UK Ministry of Defence. It took 22 refuelling stops to get 12 aircraft all the way to China. And in fact, we then performed in 19 countries as part of this tour, lasting 9 weeks. And during that time, we've had it confirmed by the Foreign and Commonwealth Office that we did in fact perform, whether live or online or on television, to over 1 billion people. So really flying the flag for the great campaign, British prosperity, British industry. Here we go, getting ready now. Reds 1, 2 and 3 at the front, 4 and 5 will be behind them, and 6 to 9 at the back. They stop with 750 feet spacing in between elements.
别走了，刚才空警察，接近圆时候空警察没戏了，没戏了，在这拍片，我操，往后点去，太漂亮了。
Good there, 4-5. So 4 and 5 stop at their 750-foot point in front of red 6 to 9. That's good there, boss. We're all right.
6, 5, you're ready. 2 5. 5. Here we go.
So the brakes are off. £5,200 of thrust being produced by those Rolls-Royce outdoor engines. We actually use a temperature setting in the cockpit to ensure that the aircraft are getting the correct amount of thrust. So Reds 1, 2 and 3 will set a temperature in the circus engineers and ground crew will actually fly around 100 hours during their season. It's a very sought after position in the team and we're very proud of what the work the circus carry out. That's them moving that jet across the pan now. And they'll get ready to enjoy watching the display, which will start very shortly from behind you. Formation measures 1,000 feet wide. Get your cameras ready, please, ladies and gentlemen. Get the vocal cords warmed up. Let's have a huge round of applause as we welcome the Royal Air Force Aerobatic Team for 2017. It's the Red Arrows! Pulling up at 4G, or 4 times the force of gravity, Red 1 now calls the pilots into 9 arrow formation. The jets now collapse to around 6 feet away from each other as they reach 6,000 feet or a mile above us in the sky and slow down to about 150 miles per hour. They're now in 9 arrow, the smoke's about to come off as they've just twisted very slightly to the right. And at the front of the formation is Red 1. He is squadron leader David Montenegro. It's his 3rd and final year as the team leader. He's a former Hawk instructor and Tornado F3 air defense pilot. He first joined the team back in 2009. He left in 2011 having led the Synchro pair, and then he moved on to instruct on the Tucano aircraft, teaching basic fast jet training. And that's him at the front, calling the boys into Phoenix formation. On the leader's right wing is the first of our new pilots this year. He is Red 2, Flight Lieutenant Toby Keeley. Toby is a former Tornado GR4 pilot. He then moved on to instruct on the Royal Air Force's newest training aircraft, the new version of this jet, the Hawk T Mark II. In fact, if you saw the Hawk T2 roll demo in 2015, Toby was the wingman for that roll demo. To the right now, their 60th anniversary this year. And to the right, the Spitfire roll. Upside down, 2,500 feet, 400 miles per hour. The shape of the aircraft very visible there against this grey backdrop of the high level cloud. Reds 1, 4 and 5 smoking as they finish the Spitfire roll to your front left. On the leader's left wing is the next of our new pilots. He is Red 3, flight left. The white smoke comes on. They're rolling out to your left-hand side.
8, 9, roll.
Reds 8 and 9 with the blue and red smoke starting to roll around the rest of the formation. Cameras ready?
Coming left. Yeah.
Coming left, the coloured smoke changes. 8 and 9 as he enters a 3G left-hand turn, so they finish their rolls. The next move now takes place. You'll see 2, 3, 4 and 5 move to the very back of the formation, beam red 7, as reds 8 and 9 tuck in behind to form the shape of that fabulous feat of British aviation engineering excellence. White smoke's about to come on in this left-hand turn as we present Concorde. On the very bottom of the formation there, as we look at it, is red 5. All 9 smokes on, looking great against this cloud with a beautiful light for your photographs, and there's the silhouette of that Diamond 9 shape. And as we finish this manoeuvre, that signifies the end of the first part of the Red Arrows display, where so far you've seen all 9 jets together performing close formation aerobatics. Well, now we're going to change the tempo of the display as we split into smaller formations of between 2 and 7 jets for some much more dynamic manoeuvring. Jippo was the nickname of the gentleman who first led the back 4 aircraft when the Red Arrows started flying 9-ship displays in 1968. So now, cameras ready. This is the detonator! Keep your eyes on Jippo. From blue to white on the right-hand side is Red 6, the leader of our synchro pair. He is Flight Lieutenant Tom Bold. Tom's in his 3rd and final year as a Red Arrows pilot. He's a former Tucano instructor and Tucano display pilot, and operationally Tom flew on the front line in the Typhoon, securing the skies of the UK and the Falkland Islands. So that's Tom on the right with the smoke on. Looking left with the smoke is red 70 miles per hour. Ready for the Jippo pass. Turn, says Red 6. The pilots put full power on the aircraft, pulling 6G. That's 6 times the force of gravity, so everything in their bodies weighs 6 times more than normal, including their blood, which wants to go to their feet instead of their brains. They don't want to pass out. They're working hard to fly the Cyclone. Once again, Synchro will cross at the front in a manoeuvre we call the slingshot. So they'll cross there. But now bring your eyes to the right-hand side. Right-hand side for Enid. Left-hand side, here comes a lone jet. This is Red 9. Enid go for coloured smoke. Red 9 is going to fly through in the goose.
Coming right now.
Brilliant. So can you imagine the gloating this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, after the Lions drew the series this morning? So he's very disappointed with the result. We are not. We're having a great time winding him up about it. So if you see Red 9 later on, please do have a laugh at his expense. Straight ahead now, looking for the synchro pair. 500 miles an hour and 5 times the force of gravity. To draw their heart in the skies above Yeovilton. Keep your eyes to the top right of the heart. Rolling out is Red 8. He's going to be the team's Cupid as he puts his red smoke on to draw the spear through the heart. Red 8 is Flight Lieutenant Mike Bowden. Mike is a former Hawk instructor, Harrier GR9 pilot and Tornado GR4 pilot.
Coming left now.
As Red 1 enters a left-hand turn, the following pilots use their feet to input a lot of rudder, swinging the jets out like a pendulum in line astern. Put simply, in most of our shapes, the odd-numbered pilots fly on the left, the even-numbered pilots fly on the right. But in this shape, it's the other way around. Reds 2 and 4 are now on the left, Reds 3 and 5 are on the right. But they want to switch back to their normal side, so they're going to do it like this, in the slalom. Now in their normal positions, Reds 2 and 4 on the right, Reds 3 and 5 on the left. In battle, battles around 20 feet apart between nose and wingtip
So around 7 meters as they put their red smoke on in a 3G left-hand turn. Red 1 calls tightening, just squeezing the G a little bit more to make the crowd line, the 230-meter display line, in battle. Now switching back to white smoke, that's Enid finishing the slalom. Jippo roll go for the Hurricane. Enid pitching up to around 25 degrees nose up, then inputting a left-hand roll to draw 2 rolls in the sky, a red, white and blue snake-like shape, which we call the Python.
Now, tight.
Two, 3, 4 and 5 switch to white smoke. Red 1 starting to use red smoke in this second roll. On the far right of that shape is red 4. He's Flight Lieutenant Matt Masters. He's a second-year pilot in the team, a former Tucano instructor and Tornado F3 air defense pilot. Now look straight ahead for Jippo. This is the Jippo break.
Go!
Changing from blue to white is red 7. He is synchro number 2, Flight Lieutenant Cy Taylor. Cy is in his second year in the team. He's a former Tornado GR4 pilot, and then he moved across to the Typhoon Force, where eventually he became a Typhoon flying instructor, teaching new Typhoon pilots how to fly that aircraft. So that's Cy, red 7 on the left, red 6 on the right, back to 100 feet now to fly the double rolls. Pitching up 4 powers, 20 degrees nose up, inverted, then back down to 100 feet. By the rollbacks.
Go!
A very neat set of synchro speed of 800 miles per hour. Here they come for the carousel. Pulling 6G, remember they're working hard, they're tightening their leg muscles against their inflating G trousers. They're going to cross 3 times, switching from red to blue smoke and vice versa around the back of this manoeuvre. Round the front, they'll switch to white smoke. Now everybody here at Yeovilton, please put your hands together for the synchro pair. One rolling, says red 1. He puts his red smoke on, pitches up now to draw the mathematical symbol for infinity around the rest of the formation. This is the infinity break. You've been watching the Royal Air Force aerobatic team, the Red Arrows! There we go, little blip of smoke. Oh! On the left-hand side of the runway is Red 5. That was Flight Lieutenant Chris Lyndon Smith, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Touching down now, here's the leader of Jippo, leader of the synchro pair, Flight Lieutenant Tom Bold. Number 2, Flight Lieutenant Cy Taylor. Another blip of smoke so that Reds 8 and 9 can see what's happening. Red 1 is busy concentrating on the display flying. This is Red 8, Flight Lieutenant Mike Bowden. And last but Flight Lieutenant Emmett Cox. I knew he'd get the biggest cheer. Well done, everybody. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. They'll come to a stop at the end of the runway. They'll taxi you.
Then it's the Royal Navy Merlin, which is taxiing out, ready to get airborne and go and hold at Podimore. That is down towards the right-hand end of the crowd area. After the Merlin's display, we've got the Czech Air Force, as I say, going off to hold for probably about 20 minutes because we've got the Apache to take off and display first. And then we've got the 3 Belgian F-16s, including the example from the static display, to depart to another display commitment at Dijon in France. There is the Apache currently ground taxiing.
Yeah, because you get... 你又来啤酒了？
哎呀，这车死人！
那边啤酒怎么办？你不是昨天连1瓶啤酒、1杯啤酒都没喝完吗？
There's the Apache getting airborne initially to go off and hold.
哎，你开车要少喝哦。啊，行。下午都过啦，你要注意哦。没关系，我肯定比你稳吧。放你屁！我还要按你的导航，那我第3车。
Cleared hot gunship.
The request for fires has been answered, with the front seat identifying the enemy through the day TV and FLIR cameras. Out to your front, the crew begins the attack run to deliver a Hellfire laser-guided missile.
Gunship rifle.
Hellfire, go.
Attacking with rockets, danger close. Mayhem 5-1, copies, re-attack. Danger close, cleared, rockets hot.
The pilots have identified further enemy elements and repositioned the aircraft in order to bring the 70mm rockets to bear on the target.
Gunship cleared hot, tipping in rockets.
Rockets.
Gunship rifle.
On recovery from the diving fire profile, delivering a successful rocket strike, Jim reacts dynamically to avoid any ground fire, here conducting a 270-degree wing over. With a further enemy vehicle sighted, the pilot uses a 180-degree return to target wing over to rapidly reset back towards the... Minimises the threat of ground fire, but making tracking and predicting the aircraft's flight difficult for an enemy attempting to engage. The bunt sees the aircraft pitch from 90 degrees nose up to 90 degrees nose down at the highest point of the manoeuvre. After 3 successful strikes and with enemy vehicles burning, the pilot positions the aircraft in a high wheel, circling the target to allow the front seater to conduct a comprehensive battle damage assessment. While Staff Sergeant Balka scans with the cameras, Jim spots a remaining enemy soldier with a surface-to-air missile preparing to engage the aircraft. Using the targeting symbology projected into his right eye through his helmet's monocle, Jim slaves the 30mm gun to his line of sight and can quickly engage the threat, decisively ending the contact.
Target pilot, helmet sight, steady mic firing. Mayhem 5-1, this is gunship, engaged with missiles, rockets and gun, all targets destroyed. Mayhem 5-1, copies, all targets destroyed. Enemy fire has ceased with no friendly casualties. Many thanks, end of mission.
With the threat eliminated and the friendly ground forces safe,
Gunship has demonstrated the value of Apache close air support and the lethality of its precision strike weaponry, whilst also acting as a deterrent for future enemy action. Concluding the tactical demonstration, Jim will now fly a short routine to display the Apache's impressive range of manoeuvrability. A wing-over is a tactical return-to-target manoeuvre, commonly flown to quickly reposition the Apache back towards a threat. Approaching 120 knots, or approximately 140 miles an hour, Jim can convert this energy and momentum into a 70-degree nose-up climb. Once climbing, the aircraft is rolled to 90 degrees angle of bank, and our cyclic is applied to bring the aircraft through 180 degrees. Pedal is used to line the tail, ensuring it follows the nose. The exit is flown to recovery onto entry parameters. Cameras at the ready, ladies and gentlemen, as the aircraft returns to crowd centre for a close-up look at the 360-degree wing over. The aircraft is pitched to 60 degrees nose up and 90 degrees angle of bank. Whilst coordinating control inputs, as well as monitoring the power, the 10-ton helicopter can be flown back over its right shoulder through 360 degrees. A flaring turn can be used to wash off excess speed, allowing the arrival into a 100-foot hover to demonstrate the low airspeed handling capabilities of the aircraft. 2017 sees the Army Air Corps celebrating its 60th anniversary, and the Apache has been at the centre of Corps' recent operational experience. The aircraft developed a fearsome reputation in Afghanistan, and it has been, and will continue to be, deployed in the maritime role, flying from Royal Navy ships at sea. The Apache Force is also currently committed to supporting the Air Assault Task Force, UK Special Forces, and with the aircraft's flexibility and fire 64E Apache Guardian will be fully integrated into the new Queen Elizabeth class carriers to continue providing a vital land and maritime strike capability. The Apache has 4 weapons pylons mounted on the stub wings. These stations can be fitted independently with either CRV-7 rocket launchers, Hellfire missile rails, or external fuel tanks for increased range and endurance. As you can see today, Gunship has been configured with a mixed loadout of rockets and missiles. Each rocket launcher that you can see on the outboard pylons houses 19 70mm folding fin rockets, while the missile racks can hold up to 4 radar or laser-guided Hellfire missiles. These pylons will automatically articulate through 19 degrees to keep the weapons in firing constraints for as long as possible. Both the rockets and the missiles can engage targets out to 8 kilometres, while the powerful M230 30mm cannon mounted underneath the fuselage can fire high explosive rounds out to beyond 4 kilometres with a cyclic rate of 625 rounds a minute. As you watch Gunship perform sideways laterals, you can see the Apache's impressive hover performance and a representative operational weight. Above the main rotor disc, you'll notice the distinctive shape of the aircraft's fire control radar. The radar is able to scan out to 8 kilometres, detecting over 1,000 targets, prioritising them and offering the pilot 16 simultaneous firing solutions through the aircraft's weapons processors. Along with target detection and missile guidance, the radar is also capable of mapping the terrain ahead of the aircraft in flight to assist in navigation and terrain avoidance at night or in bad weather. On the nose of the aircraft is the Target Acquisition and Designation Site, or TADS, housing the day TV and infrared cameras, as well as a Class 4 laser for ranging and missile guidance. A further infrared sensor mounted above the TADS can be slaved to the pilot's helmet position, allowing flight at night in pitch black, solely with reference to the image Christmas party tricks. The Army Air Corps continues to actively recruit both officer and senior non-commissioned aircrew, making the Army the only service that offers a flying career to both soldier and officer pilots. If you'd like more information on the Army Air Corps, please do visit us at our static display aircraft, where I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Completing the 180-degree return to target manoeuvre to your front, Jim will now approach head-on for another look at the 360-degree wing over. This will demonstrate the awesome power of the 2 turbomecha engines mounted either side of the fuselage. Each engine provides over 2,300 shaft horsepower, meaning together they produce more power than 4 Formula 1 racing cars. The Apache is capable of flying on just a single engine should it sustain any battle damage. As the crew reset for the signature finale of the Apache display, we'd like to ask you just to put your hands together and thank our partners at Event Horizon for providing today's fantastic pyrotechnic effects. If you are out capturing photographs today, ladies and gentlemen, this may be one that you would like, so please do have your cameras at the ready for a final opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, the British Army Apache attack helicopter. So that concludes today's demonstration of the Army Air Corps Apache helicopter. So on behalf of the whole team, Major Traherne, Staff Sergeant Balka and Gunship will now perform the customary bow to thank you for your support. So please do give them a wave, put your hands together and show your appreciation for their efforts today. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2017 attack helicopter display team. To finish, I'd just like to remind you that you can visit us on social media for more team news and information on upcoming displays. Feel free to share your pictures of the day using hashtag AHDT. It's always appreciated by the team and indeed other followers of the pages. You can find us by searching Facebook and Instagram with Attack Helicopter Display Team or on Twitter at AHDT. If you'd like to meet today's display pilots, they will be available after they land at the Apache static display. On behalf of the Attack Helicopter Display Team, I'd like to wish you an enjoyable rest of your weekend, and as ever, thank you for your ongoing support to the British Armed Forces.
Thank you very much, Dave, and to the whole team. And it's been quite a big week for the Army Air Corps, hasn't it, Dave? Because there was some ceremonial activity around the 60th anniversary involving the Prince of Wales.
Yeah, that's correct. Big fan. Yeah, we've
让人家就不赔咱们，你知道吗？咱现在上的全险。来吧，嘿，你们俩现在入了我的场地，把我就赶一边了。再往前来吧。不是你这个没用，你越往前看还好。
Well, we were expecting 3 Belgian F-16s to depart, including the static example, but it looks like just 2. The specially painted display aeroplane in the hands of Commandant Tom de Mortel, and first is the spare jet in the standard colour scheme.
So we got one of those on display as well. Years of very valuable service, but it did have to retire. So as we wait just now, the Merlin Mark II is over your right shoulder, just positioning behind, just waiting for clearance to close.
So the Merlin Mark II upgrade program from the Mark 1. Well, the Mark 1 was very capable.
Sonar, so you'll see these aircraft low over the sea, with that in the water below them, in the hover, and it's searching down to 2,000 feet of depth of water for submarines. So the upgrade was largely avionics. If you look at the Merlin Mark II cockpit, in between the pilot seats, a lot of the switchery is gone, and it's glass touchscreen controls. It's a very modern helicopter, so we've got 6. So you see, quite agile for such a big helicopter. It's actually a medium utility helicopter, 15 tons, not quite on the same scale as the Chinook of the Royal Air Force, and some of the larger helicopters you may see around in the United States and the Russian militaries. However, still a big 15-ton helicopter. 5 main rotor blades, with an all-up mass of 15 tons, 3 tons per rotor blade carrying, so that's an impressive feat of engineering, and those rotor blades designed here in Britain, composite main rotor blades under the British Experimental Rotor Programme. And these are the iteration of these blades. Very, very capable, very clever. So in the turn they're converting reducing speed to height, turning yourself around back onto the same track. So, sister squadrons down there. 824 is the operational conversion unit for the Merlin Mark II. Sister squadrons down there, 814, 820 and 829. You deploying the Mark II on the front line, whether that be in our frigates at sea or on the Royal Fleet Auxiliary ships that we also employ these aircraft on. So as you notice, coming in retractable undercarriage, which reduces drag at high speed, which allows the aircraft to travel faster, burning less fuel and therefore more operational endurance on task. So now we're going to see another role. It's not just all about hunting submarines. You'll see these aircraft on the future carriers, providing search and rescue support for the F-35 Lightning IIs, of which one is over in the static park. If you want to go and have a look, see what the future looks like. It looks big and it looks shiny. So just like we saw in the Whirlwind at the beginning of the show, search and rescue capability. So winchman going down, you'll see his right hand is moving. He's giving directions to the winch operator on where he wants to be positioned to be able to get down and rescue a survivor. The winch operator is talking to the pilot, giving him instructions about how high to keep the winchman above the water. So he's saying up, down, left, right. Everyone give him a wave while he's going past. How big that aircraft, the Crow's Nest project, is going to take that same search watch radar, upgraded, and attach it to a Merlin. So that's in progress at the minute. So you'll see Merlins developing with those radars underneath the tail cone, out doing the job that the Sea King used to do, and still does for the Mark 7. Give your appreciation for the Merlin Mark II of 824 Naval Air Squadron, Culdrose, and the Merlin Helicopter Force.
And if you'd like to find out more from our sponsors Lockheed Martin, they, as Dave said, have got full-scale replica F-35 in the static park, and they've got a Merlin on display in Hangar 7 with various activities going on there. defence capabilities in the UK. If you're interested in that sort of subject, I'm told that tickets are still on sale at the Bath box office for a talk this coming Tuesday, the 11th of July, by Air Vice Marshal Mike Harwood on the subject of the future of air power. Next Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. at the Bath Royal Literary and Scientific Institution. The cost of admission, £6 or £4 for members of the institution. There'll also be tickets on sale at the door. You can get more details from the Bath box office and the Bath Royal Literary and Scientific Institution on that talk by Air Vice Marshal Mike Harwood on the future of air power this coming Tuesday, the 11th of July, 7:30 p.m. And here we see the cutting edge of the modern day Czech Air Force rolling now, the Saab JAS-39C Gripen. Incorporating more rolls. The aircraft comes from the 211th Tactical Squadron of the Czech Air Force based at Čáslav. Aircraft in the Czech Air Force inventory.
Thank you, Ben. Good afternoon to everybody, to every spectator. It's a real pleasure for me to be here and to see all the beautiful aircraft.
Really has been a major advance in capability, hasn't it?
That's correct. Before Gripens, we used just, let's say, Eastern Bloc.
Trainers, the aircraft leased from Gripen International.
There are still coming new capabilities to the Gripen. The Squadron 211 is more or less focused to air-to-air business, but they are supposed to get some air-to-ground.
A very capable little aeroplane, the Gripen, the latest in the long line of Saab fighters, Saab jet fighters that began soon after World War II, but this is the first one that's really achieved great success on the export market. The Draken had a little, but the Gripen rather more, sold to a wide variety of nations other than Sweden, its home country, alongside the Czech Republic, Brazil, Hungary, South Africa and Thailand, all current operators. A slow speed pass here, David.
Well, this is the 100 knots in comparison with 0.9, but you can see the difference.
RM12 turbofan, 12,100 pounds of thrust. In dry power, just over 18,000 pounds with afterburner.
As you said, Ben, the aircraft is quite small, but really beautifully designed, and all the pilots probably fell in love with that.
And just like its Saab jet fighter predecessors, the maintenance in extreme conditions, very useful in the cold weather in Sweden, and also very good short takeoff and landing capabilities.
That's correct. 600 meters off the runway. That's all they need to land and to take off.
Very impressive indeed. It's easy to see why this aircraft has found such favour around the world. You stand quick reaction alert, don't you? Air defence duty with the Gripen in the Czech Republic.
And to Iceland. 211 Squadron is providing the air policing also during those missions for countries which simply do air policing.
And 211th Tactical Squadron is also a member of the NATO Tiger Association and has taken part in a lot of the Tiger Meet exercises.
That's correct, Ben, and they've been very, very successful. They've won one Tiger Trophy. I cannot remember the correct year, but it was at least one.
We'll see an aircraft from another of the NATO Tiger Squadrons shortly in the form of one of the Rafales of the French Navy in a very distinctive scheme.
As by the remark, now the pilot is securing for 20 seconds, which is a really hard job for him. And during the flight, he shows the minimum speed of 100 knots up to 0.9 Mach.
Certainly got a bright international future ahead of it.
As you said, Czech Republic was the first customer of the Saab company, and I guess that it's not the last one. I would expect that the E and F model would be as successful as the C and D.
Definitely, the E and F, the respective. In the UK, we've seen singletons, but the first display for the pair.
Well, I hope that you won't be disappointed.
Certainly not. Thank you very much, David. See you later, as the Gripen comes in to land over the threshold, and I'm sure to come to quite a short stop.
Thank you for your attention, and see you.
Day, but we've got the Chipmunk in something of a last-minute substitute, and there it is on the roll, because the French Navy Atlantique, unfortunately, is unable to be with us today. Suffered a technical problem after its base at Lorient yesterday and was, despite very strenuous efforts, unable to come and join us. Gives this aircraft a top speed just under 140 miles an hour. The Chipmunk was originally conceived as a successor to that most famous of all biplanes, the de Havilland Tiger Moth, for both the Royal Air Force and Royal Canadian Air Force. The RAF ended up taking 735 of these aeroplanes. Early orders for the Chipmunk were rather slow. It made its first flight from the de Havilland factory airfield at Downsview in Toronto on the 22nd of May 1946. And came into service with the Royal Canadian Air Force a couple of years later. But at that time, of course, there were still large numbers of surplus wartime training aircraft, Tiger Moths, Harvards and the like, that were perfectly serviceable, perfectly usable for continued post-war use. And of course, an awful lot of governments, including Britain's, were virtually broke at the end of World War II and didn't have huge funds with which to buy new aeroplanes. The Chipmunk also gained an undeserved negative reputation for certain tricky handling characteristics, but things soon picked up from there, not least after the first RAF Chipmunks came into service with the Oxford University Air Squadron at Kidlington. That was in February 1950, and the great de Havilland test pilot Pat Fillingham, who went out to Canada in 1946 to make the type's maiden flight, led the first batch of chippies into Kidlington from the factory airfield at Hatfield. Quite a long evaluation took place prior to Royal Air Force service of the Chipmunk. They came into use with University Air Squadrons, the reserve flying squadrons of the RAF Volunteer Reserve, and latterly the Air Experience flights, giving flying experience to members of the Air Cadets. So there may well be quite a few of you of new Soviet military equipment that had been deployed to the area. The Royal Navy took its first Chipmunks into service in 1966 when it got 12 examples, ex-RAF ones, for the Britannia Royal Naval College Air Experience flight at Rowborough Airport. In Plymouth, 771 and 781 Naval Air Squadrons at Culdrose and Leon Solent flew them for communications work and as glider tugs, as did the station flight here, and those at Culdrose and Lossiemouth, the last to be retired, those of Britannia flight at Rowborough in 1993. The Army Air Corps Chipmunks soldiered on until 1997, the year after the Army Air Corps examples had been retired. It's always been a super display aeroplane, as we saw demonstrated there in the very capable hands of the commanding officer of the Royal Navy Historic Flight, Lieutenant Commander Chris Gotka, AFC. Is on the roll from your right, from the Royal Danish Air Force. The second sight today of the General Dynamics, now Lockheed Martin F-16AM Fighting Falcon. Denmark, as I mentioned earlier, one of the 4 European participating air forces, alongside Belgium, the Netherlands and Norway, that together ordered 348 F-16s as far back as 1975. In the case of Denmark, the type went on to replace some venerable old combat jets, the F-100 Super Sabre, the F-104 Starfighter and the Saab 35 Draken. Deliveries began to Denmark in January 1980. They bought a total of 77 in different batches, 30 remain in use today, all of them subject to the midlife upgrade program, and that's integrated a wide range of air-to-ground weaponry and better targeting equipment. Here the first pass, a slow run, which will be followed by a power climb. Danish F-16s have been beans all the time. The entire Danish F-16 force today concentrated with the fighter wing Gripen, where there are two squadrons, 727 and 730 fighter squadrons. This one comes to us from 727. They each hold 24-hour quick reaction alert air defence facilities with two main aircraft, two backups. In Libya, an inherent resolve against Daesh, also the Baltic and Icelandic air policing initiatives. .727 fighter squadron, so no special markings, but a very rare chance to see a Danish F-16 in a flying display in the UK for the first time in 6 years. Operating somewhere like Denmark is poor weather over the winter period, and it causes the Royal Danish Air Force to cancel almost a third of their planned F-16 missions. So the squadrons deploy southwards in Europe to carry on their training. They spend 2 weeks each at the chosen location, with the other unit staying back home at Skrydstrup to man the QRA. Two examples of the links from 723 Squadron to our static display here for the last time before those helicopters are replaced by the Sikorsky MH-60R Seahawk. But there, completing his sequence, Captain Truls Deli, call sign Theo, with the Royal Danish Air Force F-16AM Fighting Falcon. Yes, just as the Royal Navy retired its last links.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to imagine yourselves far away from here, some sunny island, where there is a conflict ongoing. Something has happened. We're not sure what yet, but troops have been called in. So on the response, coming from anti-surface shipping, carrying missiles, stern development, Sea Venom, Martlet, Cleave, as we're about to see. Okay, number 1 aircraft in the lead, staying low. Number 2 at height, giving top cover with the M3M machine gun, strafing the area. Clearing it so that number 1, the low aircraft, can move in close. Door is open on the low aircraft. You're making an approach to the landing zone. He's going to come into the hover. Approaching the doorway of number 1 aircraft is Lieutenant Marcus Pennant, master roping instructor, deploying troops onto the ground. Aircraft in the hover now, flown by Lieutenant Commander Marty Van Doon, the senior pilot of 85 Naval Air Squadron, accompanied by Lieutenant Commander Alex Sims. Cat, to number 2 pilot, with him Lieutenant Commander Mark Jones, and Chief Field Officer Sam Parkin, operating the machine gun. Troops down the deck, the lead aircraft departs, followed by number 2. So as I said, anti-surface, anti-shipping is the main role. 2 missiles coming into service by 2020. The heavy Sea Venom, aimed at taking out up to a corvette size, a medium-sized warship. And the Martlet, the light, aimed at taking out faster and sort of attack craft, all in the maritime environment, but also having a rollover into the littoral environment, against coastal batteries, harbours, installations. And we're going to see some of the agility of the Wildcat. You will have seen the Lynx, especially the Army one, just demonstrated from the Lynx, so we retain that agility, resulting in a very agile helicopter. Okay, aircraft now in the hover, 300 feet, into the 90-degree vertical and turning towards. As it the one on the right, as it passes, you'll see the half-cal machine gun mounted on the side of the aircraft. So the Wildcat Maritime Force based here at Yeovilton. 25 as the operational conversion unit. Both aircraft there demonstrating the defensive aid suite, the flares, to defeat an infrared missile, should we be targeted by troops on the ground. So it's a busy time in the Wildcat Maritime Force. We've got a lot of Lynx pilots to train, pilots and observers to train onto the Wildcat. We've also got to maintain our frontline output, so 815 is also very busy, keeping our Wildcat at sea on the ships of the fleet. And 815 also conducting maritime interdiction operations for UK security. Aircraft agility, the pair formation bow,
Well, our next two aircraft taxiing on at the left-hand end of the main runway, and it's now time for one of the highlights of the afternoon's proceedings. And this is a display you will not see at any other show in the UK, or indeed at hardly any other shows anywhere in the 2017 season. But we're delighted to welcome it back for the second year running, and with an incredibly painted aircraft in the lead, because recently the French Navy hosted the NATO Tiger Meet, the gathering of aircraft from squadrons across NATO with tiger or big cats in the emblem. Special colour schemes are a big part of that, and the host unit, the French Navy's member squadron of the NATO tour, of the magnificent Dassault Rafale Marine. In Brittany, climbing out to 3,000 feet, going through a 90-degree turn as they do so, and they'll be staying as a pair for the early part of this display. But it doesn't start off at high speed, because we'll be seeing the aircraft in the so-called dirty configuration, thus with undercarriage down the aeronautique navale. In fact, it's replaced no fewer than 7 platforms in all across those two armed services. On the next pass in so-called column formation, with the French Navy, the type replaced first the tremendously charismatic Ling Temco Vought F-8P Crusader fighter, and then last year it completed the replacement of the Dassault Super Étendard. 3 squadrons in that air arm now operational on this type. Took to the air in 1986. 5 years later, the first prototypes of both the Air Force and Navy versions made their maiden flights. And from the outset, it was designed to be a very versatile platform. It's the latest in a long line of delta-winged Dassault combat jets, but it's a significant advance even on the very capable Mirage 2000 that the French Air Force still uses. That delta and canard configuration that you can see, chosen for the excellent high angle of attack maneuverability, and a combination of range and weapons carrying capability, and of course it has full fly-by-wire controls. In towards us for an opposition break. Display unique to the French Navy, we see one aircraft going through its paces on a far axis. That's the tiger striped example, while the grey one comes in at the slow with hook down. So we will get a close-up look at the tiger-striped example in due course. These 2 of 48 Rafales in service across 3 aeronaval squadrons. And the tiger-striped example comes down. Navy's carrier and helicopters. Flew again from the Charles de Gaulle in the course of what the French dubbed Opération Armatin, the French contribution to the coalition actions in Libya. In 2011, the Navy Rafales joined those operations 2 days after sailing from Toulon. And in Libya, the Rafales took part in many air-to-ground strikes alongside French Air Force Rafales and Mirage 2000s, and in that conflict the Rafale truly demonstrated all its capabilities except air-to-air. Focus now is on Opération Chamal, the French contribution to the efforts against Daesh in Iraq. They're operating there from shore bases alongside Air Force examples, performing close air support, air interdiction, and the ISR, intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance role. Its success in the Libyan operations in 2011, Rafales are now being delivered to the Egyptian Air Force. That of Qatar is to follow, and it's still in contention for various other requirements. Unlike the Gripen that we saw earlier, but like the Typhoon that's coming next, it's a twin-engined aircraft, a pair of Snecma M88-2 afterburning turbofans. There's a great deal of commonality between the Air Force and Navy derivatives of the aircraft. The airframes are largely identical except for the undercarriage and of course the addition of the carrier arrestor hook that we've seen during the display by the two Rafale M's. What we're going to see now is the grey aircraft coming into land while the Tiger Stripe one flies through again with, I expect, another wing rock. Although a zoom climb will do very nicely as well. They've got rather more airspace to play with today than they did during their rehearsal yesterday when it looks like the Tiger Stripe jet still isn't finished. And that was his final break into the circuit. An aircraft with all the flair and charisma of the previous Dassault fighters, the likes of the Mystère, Ouragan and Mirage families, superbly demonstrated today by the French Navy, the two pilots from Flottille 11F at Landivisiau on the Dassault Rafale Marine. Simulated carrier deck bolter, I'm pretty sure positively the final act before a final full stop landing by the lead aircraft from this pair of Rafales. As Dave was saying just now, the French Navy also represented here with one of their Westland Lynx HAS-4 maritime helicopters in the static park. Always hugely welcome participants at Yeovilton Air Days. You don't see this sort of support from them at any other British show, and that does indeed conclude a brilliant display from the two pilots of the two Rafale M's from Flotille 11F. Call sign Kimono. Now on the Murray first, plus 1435 flight at Mount Pleasant in the Falkland Islands.
Somewhere in the sky.
And this, like all modern combat jets, in from our left. For the Lancaster and Spitfire of the Royal Air Force Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, then it's the Czech Air Force with their second contribution of the day in the form of the Aerobatic L-159 Alka TAC demo pair, and then the Patrouille Suisse to close the main flying display, and that'll take us through until about 4:25. But now from the Royal Air Force, the Eurofighter Typhoon XGR-4. I'm sure scorching the runway there with the afterburners on the two Eurojet EJ200 turbofan engines with a very, very rapid departure. Display, an absolutely surging barrel roll to start his display. He'll be turning back into us on the B-axis, straight towards us, pulling into a loop. End of the display axis before turning 45 degrees away, and we'll see two consecutive barrel rolls now. Barrel roll being a roll that is flown as if to describe the outline of the inside of an imaginary barrel in the sky. Is an instructor with number 29 Reserve Squadron. He's got another one of those negative G pushers, and you can see fuel venting from the top of the Typhoon's tail fin. And coming up next, he'll be accelerating to 580 knots at about 0.88 Mach, going down to 100 feet for the high-speed pass. Power back to idle now, and Ryan applying full back stick to come back in on the 45-degree line towards us before a 3-point hesitation, aileron roll. Interesting now to compare the minimum rate as a turn of the Typhoon versus the F-16s and Gripen we saw earlier. German and Spanish branches of what's now Airbus Defence and Space. Time now for the Typhoon's slow speed pass. When the aircraft reaches display centre, Ryan will be pitching up into a tight climbing spiral under the power of the two EJ200s. Of the Typhoon as Ryan positions for a knife edge pass. There he transitions into an outside turn. And now back onto the B axis, the speed again being lowered, as will the landing gear. And in this unusual configuration, we'll see it perform a loop. He's just called 1 minute to display complete. Turning back onto the A-axis, and now I expect to see him coming back down to 100 feet, accelerating to 500 knots for his final pass. I know that the Typhoon display team have got their publicity trailer in the crowd area somewhere. Not sure of its exact location, but if you haven't already gone there, do make your way there. I'm sure they've got some very interesting souvenirs on sale. And now we're going to have a very quick change, it looks like, off to the left by Well, from the RAF of the present day, as the Typhoon goes on its final approach to land the Typhoon FGR-4 from number 29 Reserve Squadron at Coningsby in the hands of Flight Lieutenant Ryan Lawton. And if you look out now to the horizon on the left, you can see running in behind it 2 other aircraft based at RAF Coningsby, but of a rather different vintage, from the Royal Air Force Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, making a very welcome return, the Arrow Lancaster 1, and it's accompanied. noticed different colours on either side. On one side, the markings of a number 460 Squadron Lancaster of the Royal Australian Air Force. One more pass from the Spitfire. On that side of the Lancaster, the nose arch is quite interesting because it portrays also from Czaslav, the same base as we saw providing the Gripen earlier on. And I'm delighted to once again be joined by Captain David Sochacki from the Czech Air Force. David, a very warm welcome back to you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Now the tactical display by the two Czaslav pilots, or two pilots of the Czech Air Force. We are looking forward. The display is not as the same as the previous display of the supersonic fighters. We will have more smooth and easy flying because of the characteristic of the aircraft. So first of all, there will be takeoff in pair. Then they will build up the speed and the altitude, and they will come from the left side for the initial flyby.
And David, before I leave the commentary to you for the rest of their display, we should say there will be pyrotechnic explosions during this display again, not to alarm anybody.
Actually, you're right. Don't be afraid. There is no live ammunition on board, so it's only the show.
They will build up the speed and altitude, as I said, so we can wait for them.
Left side display two-ship formation of the Alka. The aircraft will come together, and they put a lot of effort to cooperation with ground forces. Cooperation with ground forces, especially with joint forward air controllers, is the daily cooperation on daily basis. We cooperate also not only with the Czech FACs, but also with the AGOS school in Germany. Another close miss. Now the aircraft will go into the close circling, which demonstrates the capability or the agility of the airframe. Alka was built to fly low due to its thick and straight wing. Compared to other jets, you have seen the Alka is the slow mover. The maximum speed is 0.82 Mach. Minimum speed is 110 knots. Both aircraft come together for approach and some pyro effects.
我知道你占地盘心切，小发来了，小发，你把那地盘给小发卖一块。
So, ladies and gentlemen, heads up for two-ship formation of Alka in a steep climb and split.
这个等凳子坐会儿，凳子坐会儿。没办法，耍吧。哎呦呦呦！
Minimum speed on the gear and the maximum speed in a clean configuration. The aircraft on a full flaps and load gear. You can see the beautiful silhouette of the aircraft. Ladies and gentlemen, please, for the very last time, heads up. In front of you, in a steep climb and split. Alka Lima 159er. Cooperation with other Iraqi Air Force and coalition forces, this aircraft proves itself very worthy in that fight.
昨天你老公在我后面，
他说是你呀。
他老腿我顶我就害怕了。他说我们是开玩笑吗？他说我腿麻了，我就给他的腿麻了。
他是恐
高，他不恐高，我有一点，但是我也还可以了。还有什么？
不过其实
我上来先站。刚才没拍吗？
今天早上我今天不想我就回家去了，我来看看好。觉得这个很好看。过来还转，过来开个灯泡。
Alpen. Use Alpen cereal.
And his entire crew would like to invite you to enjoy our outstanding presentation. The Patroi Swiss stands for Swiss values and has come to enjoy great popularity.
Eiger. Eiger is a 4,000-meter high mountain of the Jungfrau region located in center Switzerland. This impressive mountain is part of the UNESCO World Heritage. The popular North Wall is the triangle-shaped spectacular north face of the Eiger high above Grindelwald. The pre-alpine parts of German-speaking Switzerland. Resters wear wrestling breeches with belts that are used for taking holds. Throws and tips are common because the first competitor to pin his opponent's shoulder to the ground wins the game.
That was fun. Awesome. Yes, yeah, the guys going to take it. That was his selling point, right?
The team is now parading in a pattern called Swan. Swans are the largest extant members of the waterfall family and are among the largest flying birds. The solo part of our program. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the...
coming from right side, the first one, on your left, be with you.
Well, while that's the final display item of the day, aft movements to in Lincolnshire fairly shortly. We've also got the MiG-15 to take off and depart to St Athan in Wales, where it's staging out of for its next. Of course, there's still time before you go to avail yourselves of off at once and potentially get caught up in the traffic. The various exhibition hangars, trade stands and static displays remain open for you to view. You might particularly want to go and visit the stand of Planes TV and pre-order the official 2017 Yeovilton Air Day DVD and Blu-ray. 5 cameras on site, several more aboard some of the display aircraft, including those 2 away a free DVD, Airshow Action 10, with more than 90 minutes of air display flying from other events in previous seasons. The DVD costs £16. Goodbye, and thanks once again.
你不要拍起飞吗？对了，摆了。
后面还有那个，现在就走了。我还不能回家了。加了200，已经老潮。应该是私人的。他就买4张，他买不上别的这个。哦，哎，我和你去吧。也行，我们反正等你。最后还是是吧？干嘛呢你们？一会儿咱们晚一点走吧。没事，拍完这个，咱们一起去看。反正我要拍丁太遥往那儿走。他暂时不会关的。哦，行，你再等会儿，先把这个起飞了。来。是啊。刚才刘娟广播上还广播说他们去年去中国去了9个，刚才广播上也广播，不错，全世界各地人民都知道他。
这个拍没意思，今儿都滑到那儿才起来，基本上是走过去了。在这儿抬头一次。对他有，这今天这些都明日过2天都去那儿，没时间你们都晒着了，不给你们晒。但是他今天一天就睡不着，晒了。嗯。
而且半天还没呢。